I am on. Yes, hi everyone. Thank you so much for being here. We have an exciting program today. This is pro bono work in the time of COVID-19. I have a few announcements to get started. This is part of the Law Students Summer Program event, but the information that we're talking about today is relevant and important for all attorneys, paralegals, and law students. I am Megan McKinnon. I will be the moderator today. I'm a commercial and construction litigator at Estes, Thorne & Carr. I have been a co-chair of the Pro Bono Partners Committee for 2 years, and I want to give a special shout out to the rest of the committee: Allison Williams, Charlie Gearing, Alex Farr, John Van Buskirk, and Heather Ullman. This program would not have been put on without them. If you are new to the Pro Bono Partners Committee, it is a partnership between the Dallas Association of Young Lawyers and the Dallas Area Paralegal Association, because the State Bar of Texas suggests that attorneys render at least 50 hours of legal services to the poor each year. We encourage and recognize young lawyers for their pro bono work. We recently shifted the program from encouraging young lawyers to pledge a certain number of pro bono hours each year to a challenge where we are aiming for a collective 2,500 pro bono hours as a community. Young attorneys are encouraged to submit their pro bono hours, no matter how many hours of pro bono were performed to reach this goal. We will send an email after this event with the website where you can submit your pro bono hours. A heartfelt thanks to Baylor Law School for hosting our new DAYL Pro Bono Partners webpage. So to meet this goal of 2,500 hours, Pro Bono Partners also connects you with great organizations around DFW that provide all kinds of litigation and transactional opportunities. Many of those organizations are here today, and you'll get a chance to hear from each of them on how you can help with their pro bono needs. So before we get started, a huge congratulations to the law students that are here today that are already learning the importance of pro bono work. Through the DAYL summer program, there have been hundreds, if not thousands of hours performed on pro bono projects like the COVID Dallas Evictions Project, working with HRI, and producing garnishment resources for low-income Texans. The law students involved in the Law Students Summer Program have been doing awesome work, and I hope after today you are encouraged to continue pro bono work throughout your career. There is a CLE for this, and I'll provide that number at the end of the program. So for the first part of this event, I'm so excited to introduce Judge Goldstein. Judge Goldstein presides over the 44th Civil District Court in Dallas County, and she is currently running for the 5th District Court of Appeals. Judge Goldstein was elected to the 44th District Court. Prior to being elected in 14 and in 18, she served as municipal judge for Cockrell Hill, Roy City, and Dallas. She has more than 25 years of combined legal and judicial experience, with a diverse practice history, including construction litigation, education law, state and local government, contracts, and procurement. Thank you so much for being here today, Judge. We appreciate your time.
Thank you. I'm very, very excited to be here, and thank DAYL and the committee for this opportunity. It's one of my favorite topics.
Yes, I love it. And we are so excited to hear your thoughts on pro bono work in the time of COVID. So getting started with this event, Judge, I know you have a lot of pro bono experience from when you were in private practice. Can you talk to us a little bit about that? How did you get into pro bono, and what cases stand out to you? What did you work on?
I was in big law. I was at Weil Hamilton, a firm that's no longer in existence, but I started in big law. And I was very fortunate that they gave me a lot of opportunity to do pro bono work. And so initially I was doing some family law cases. That was typically what we dealt with Legal Services of Northwest Texas at the time. But it sort of morphed from there to where I had an education law case where an individual had taken out a loan for going to a vocational technical school, and she was part of the S&L crisis back in the early 90s, and so they were trying to get her to default on her loans. And that was actually one of the most gratifying cases that I've ever had, just simply because I was able to zero out her loan so that she could get a grant to be able to be trained professionally. So because she was an indigent individual and she was a single mother, she needed that assistance. I had a First Amendment case a school prayer a case that was a First Amendment issue. I had one of my most impactful cases was a death penalty case where we were paid towards the end of the case, but initially we took it on pro bono. And one of the reasons that's so gratifying is I was able to work with other lawyers around the country to establish a recognition of the Vienna Convention on Consular Relations, which is the right to have consular assistance when you are arrested or detained by U.S. officials or anyone. If you go out of the country and you are in one of the treaty countries, you also have the right to consular assistance if you've been arrested or detained. So those are the cases that I look back on and just realize why I had the passion for the law, why I became an attorney in the first place to help people, and how I earned the nickname Pro Bono Rainmaker at Vial Hamilton, which, by the way, is not a compliment.
Yeah, that's in private practice to have that title. But that's great. It sounds like you've done some really awesome things, and I know we all have a lot to learn from you. This is a question I don't think that we prepared for, but why would you say pro bono work is important, and why is it important for young lawyers to get involved in pro bono work?
I think a lot of times it's very difficult, number one, to establish yourself as a legal professional. If you're in any type of size law firm, it's hard to get the experience and the exposure that you need. So by doing pro bono work, number one, it teaches you how to manage a client. Number two, how to manage a case. Number three, gets you into court. And number four, frankly, it introduces you to a lot of mentor lawyers and networking that gives you an opportunity to maybe either go outside your comfort zone, go outside of your current practice area, and really learn a lot of skill sets that are going to benefit you in the long run.
Yeah, I definitely agree with all of that, and I think that's great advice. And so obviously today the purpose is to discuss, how pro bono has been impacted by COVID-19. And what, in your experience, what have you seen? What has been the impact of COVID on pro bono cases?
It's been very difficult. The self-represented litigants, and that's who you would generally be dealing with as a pro bono participant. And so, right now, because of COVID, we don't have the law school clinics, whereas what I used to have self-represented litigants come into the court, I could say you can go down to the clinics and you can get some assistance there. The Legal Aid of Northwest Texas hasn't been open. In fact, we had a period of time where the law library wasn't open. So they actually had no resources available to them until we were able to get up and running on some of the electronic access that we do currently have. So that's been very difficult. The issues associated with remote technology, whether it's Teams, whether it's phones, and just helping them navigate has been very difficult for both the courts and these litigants. The other aspect is, and it's a little bit even just outside of the COVID aspect of it, is small businesses. Most of the clinics that we have and most of the programs that we have do not address these small businesses because they don't meet the qualifications for some of the clinics or some of the programs. And that is very beneficial if you have any interest whatsoever in learning about representing someone who's in business. This would be number one, very impactful, very helpful to the courts.
Yeah, definitely. And I know when we spoke on the phone, it seems that kind of a little bit you discussed this, but COVID has impacted litigants' access to the courts. Can you tell us kind of what you've seen and the impact COVID's had in this aspect?
We've never closed Dallas County Courthouse. I mean, I'm trying to monitor what other courts are doing around the country, and there actually have been courts that have been physically shut, so the public did not gain access. And we have been open the entire time, whether you have some judges who are physically in the courthouse full time, you have other judges who are physically in the courthouse on a periodic basis in a planned, scheduled way, or everyone is doing things remotely. And so it's been very difficult when we've had individuals who have just simply walked into the courthouse trying to navigate and trying to seek resources or information, and there's nothing really available to them. So it's been very difficult during this time trying to provide that type of assistance.
Yeah.
I had 3 today in court that walked in this morning.
Yeah. Yeah, and so it sounds like there's just a lot of obstacles that the litigants are facing when they're trying to handle things, and like the court is open, but they're having a hard time figuring out where to go or what to do. Have you seen anything like that?
Absolutely, absolutely. And again, it's hard. Like, for example, even with young lawyers, if you were walking into my courtroom and you were at a loss of what to do, I would say, okay, one of the main resources that I used when I first came to Texas was Dorsanio. It's like, go look at Dorsanio. Well, if the law library is closed, then you're not able to do that. There is an access to electronic research at the library, and the library is now open. But that was really a huge hurdle for a very, very long period of time. And I'm not allowed to give legal advice. I have to remain neutral. So it's very difficult in order to point them to a rule or to point them to a resource that they can go to. And I no longer had the programs that were here and available to the litigants. So for me to hand out something, I've been very fortunate. I mean, you have the DVAP program, and I have information for them, but it's been very, very difficult for me to be able to provide those resources to self-represented litigants.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. And so it seems like obviously the need for attorneys for these pro bono and litigants is gone up because they need somebody to help represent them during this time.
They do. I mean, it's a never-ending process, and some of them try to represent themselves and then realize, somewhere through the process that it is completely overwhelming, and they understand they may not particularly appreciate it or like it, but I have to treat them like they've gone to law school. Yeah. And it's very, very difficult for them to navigate. And I find lawyers in and of themselves, when they're dealing with a self-represented litigant, really do have an understanding of trying not to take advantage of the fact that they're dealing with a self-represented litigant, but they have to represent their client, and I have to be neutral. So it can be a very difficult scenario for somebody who doesn't speak lawyer.
Yeah, definitely. And so what do you foresee this being, having long-term impacts? Do you see, how do you think these things can be addressed moving forward?
As far as COVID is concerned, or just the need for pro bono representation? Because I've started in the 1990s, and so it's a 30-year process, and I think it's very, very important.
Yeah, that's true. So maybe more with respect to COVID, do you see COVID having a long-term impact, and what do you?
I do.
Yeah.
I do. I mean, and I'm a 30-year lawyer, and I'm a paper person, and so it's been interesting for me to become acclimated to having remote proceedings. But just anticipate how difficult it is and how stressful it is to have trial, and then try to have these hearings or trial in front of a court with either screen sharing, trying to get exhibits together, trying to be able to present, technology difficulties. And I have self-represented litigants who don't have email, who maybe have a cell phone, who don't have much of the technology. And sometimes there's a language barrier as well. So it's very daunting. And I think because of COVID and listening to the lawyers, outside of jury trials, and I know that there's an issue associated with remote jury trials, but just having those proceedings ongoing, it appears that we are likely to be living with remote proceedings for the foreseeable future, if not longer. So the self-represented litigants are definitely at a disadvantage for the most part.
Yeah, and it seems like, I know we had kind of talked about the the pro se litigants, they are also having an issue too, because you were saying when they come to the county, when they come to the courthouse, even some of the Wi-Fi restricts certain things, and so even coming there, they have a hard time.
It's been very, very difficult. If they don't have, like right now I'm using a hotspot. I'm using my personal laptop because I don't use Zoom on my what I call my COVID laptop. So I'm on my personal laptop that's sort of scrubbed. I'm using my personal hotspot. But I have an intern in the courtroom with me, and he's been unable to get to Zoom, to YouTube, to Facebook, because I'm actually having him watch all these proceedings remotely. But the wireless for guests at the Dallas County Courthouse blocks those access. So if someone doesn't have a cell phone with a mobile hotspot, then they don't have the ability to join remotely, even if they're physically in the courtroom. And frankly, even if they're physically in the courtroom and I'm doing a hybrid proceeding, meaning that I have some people who are here in person and some who are remote, they actually still have to be on Teams in order to be able to share documents, because in my court, I have the court reporter in the courtroom, and we're basically projecting everything we're doing on the big screen. So if they want to show documents or anything else like that and share documents, they actually have to be on a laptop of some sort.
Yeah, so there's definitely, it sounds like all these kind of obstacles and roadblocks that kind of lawyers we take for granted, that we don't realize that, you know, these litigants, that they may not have access to, and that they don't have access to the court.
And we take for granted that, and I would hope everyone who's watching has a lay person that they can talk to, because sometimes we speak in a language that lay people don't understand. And so, you know, even just saying something about verifying a petition, verifying an answer, they don't understand what verification means. And it's very difficult on occasion. So, you know, these are what I would hope for everyone here, is that you had that aha moment, that you understand why you became a lawyer. And there are just so many cases that are impactful. And the ones I was mentioning earlier had such an incredible, profound impact on my practice, on how I viewed things and how I approached the practice of law, that it was invaluable to me. And so that you're driving home and you're just thinking about your day, and you just think you just made a huge difference in someone's life. You just helped. Even it may not be significant to you, but it truly was impactful and important to the person that you're serving.
Yeah. And that's, yeah, it's so important. That's, yeah, why we all became lawyers, is to help other people.
Yes.
Yeah. And so kind of based on everything that we've talked about, do you think there's any specific areas where you see the need for pro bono work has gone up during this time, or
well, you all are addressing, you've got the eviction issues, wills, you know, wills and the issues associated with, you know, when what actually sort of hit me was, I had two friends that basically called me and said, you know, if we both end up in the hospital because one tested positive for COVID and another one had thought that they may have it, they had two kids. And so it's like you're making a decision at the very, you know, during an emergency scenario, during a public health emergency, trying to make sure that you have all the proper paperwork and somebody who can step in and assist your kids. And I mean, that was something they hadn't contemplated, and called me and said, can you come stay? I'm thinking, yes, I can come stay, but I don't have any of the legal capabilities to deal with your children if something were to happen to you. And so wills, evictions, fortunately for most self-represented litigants that we have with collection cases or debt cases, many of the financial institutions were doing either, you know, well, number one, they were precluded from doing certain activities during the initial part of the pandemic. But now they're still doing what we call compassionate suspensions, meaning that they're not moving forward with default judgments, they're not moving forward with suspension service, just to kind of still be in that. Well, number one, their people are still working remotely, so they don't have access. But that's helped a little bit. But we're expecting a huge backlog and a huge floodgate to open once the courts and once everyone starts to feel like they can get relatively back to normal. We're expecting a huge floodgate, number one, in filings, number two, in court proceedings, and the demand on court resources.
Yeah.
Evictions.
Yeah, definitely. And so I think we're getting pretty close to our time before we move on to the next part of this. Do you have any kind of takeaways, or do you have any last piece of advice, like for the attorneys and law students and paralegals that are on this call?
And I was, just so you're aware, I was a paralegal before I became an attorney. So incredible job that you all do. I can't say enough about this. I look back on the things that I'm most proud of in my career, and the things that I'm most proud of are like starting a teen court in Royce City. That was, you know, that was my volunteer as a judge. I was able to start a teen court and working with teen courts. That was very impactful to me. The cases that I had and the people that I dealt with and the exposure that it gave me to, and other opportunities in either the legal community or as far as the practice area was concerned, it's just invaluable. And as a young lawyer, before you start, you know, going out on your own or having the impact that you do, and getting caught up in other aspects of your life, getting that base of experience and exposure and professional dedication, I think, is just, I keep using the word impactful, but that's pretty much what I think.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's impactful, it's invaluable, and kind of like I said earlier, it just that's why we're all here is to help others, and whether it's pro se litigants or paying clients.
And I mean, and it's been great for me because I'll talk to lawyers, and I was having an issue with a vet, and it was a vet business, and it was a vet who had his own business, and it's a significant type of a case, and so involving trademarks and copyright and that type of it's on a different level from what the feds might do. But John and was talking to me about the different VA clinics that I didn't have information, and he sent that information to me, because whatever you send to me with regard to clinics and information, I provide to the pro se litigants. But I also had a lawyer who was in here who gave me the name of a contact individual at Baylor for a clinic, so I could help guide this self-representative, and it was during this time frame. And that's what I also find very invaluable, is to give me the resources that I have to be able to impart that to the self-represented litigants in my court.
Yeah, that's great. And that's really good, I think, for all of us to know that we can give you that information and know that you'll try to help, obviously remain neutral, but help kind of steer some of these litigants to where they can get pro bono help.
Yes, I try.
Yeah.
Thank you again for this opportunity. I really appreciate this. And I guess we stop soon enough so that Sherry doesn't have to cut me off.
Yes, well, thank you so much, Judge Goldstein. I enjoyed hearing your thoughts and your insight, and I'm sure everyone else on this call did as well. And I know there's so much that we can each do to kind of address these issues during COVID. So thank you again for your time. We really appreciate it.
Well, thank you again for this opportunity and the time that everyone's taking to learn about this. And I really do hope you take a case or two or three.
Yes, definitely. Well, thank you again. And we'll use this time right now to transition over to our second half of the event. So you're welcome to stay, but you can also go, because we know you have a lot to take care of.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it, and wish you all well, and look forward to seeing you all again soon in court.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. And so at this time, do our pro bono organizations, do you guys want to join and turn on your cameras? Great. Okay, it looks like we haven't had any questions yet, which is great. So this second half of the event involves our partner pro bono organizations, which we have the representatives here. And so what we're going to do at this time is each organization is here to explain the needs that COVID has either created or highlighted for their organization and their clients, and how attorneys, paralegals, and law students can help and get involved during this time. We are so fortunate to partner with all of you. So many great organizations here, and so I'll let each representative kind of give an overview and discuss these things. At the end of this event, we will circulate contact information for everyone that's here, and for each of these organizations, so that you can reach out and get involved and get some more information if needed. So with that said, we'll start with our first organization, and that is Advocates for Community Transformation. And with us, we have Mary Margaret Edmondson. She is the Executive Assistant to the Chief Operations Officer. So Mary Margaret, can you tell us a little bit about ACT?
Sure. So ACT is obviously an abbreviation for Advocates for Community Transformation, which is a mouthful. So you'll almost always hear us say ACT. We equip underserved communities to take back their neighborhood from crime and violence. Our hope and our vision is that neighborhood safety becomes a normal reality for everyone who lives in Dallas. We serve specifically in the neighborhoods of West Dallas, South Dallas, Pleasant Grove, and South Oak Cliff, where there are communities of marginalized and underserved residents and neighborhood leaders who need access to legal representation. We are a grassroots organization, and so the heart of our model is having a really strong presence in the neighborhoods that we serve. And we're really blessed to partner with some amazing volunteer attorneys here in Dallas. some of which have been partnering with us for 10 or more years, and then some really strong neighborhood leaders.
Yeah, that's great. And so how has COVID impacted the work that y'all do?
So, like I said, we are very present in the neighborhoods that we serve. It is, we spend a lot of time getting to know the neighborhood leaders who are already there, who already have a vision for what they want in their neighborhood and what their neighborhood needs. And it's our job to equip them and serve them so that they're able to fulfill those visions. And a lot of what that looks like are we attend neighborhood association meetings. We have community events. We serve with churches and nonprofits who are already boots on the ground in those areas. We have long-term relationships in those neighborhoods. And we just haven't been able to spend time with the people that we serve for obvious reasons. And we haven't been able to have those events and those service opportunities. So not having that presence within the neighborhood makes it really hard to connect with them and to know what they need in this season.
Yeah, definitely. And so has there been a way that you've transitioned to figuring out how to address that, and what are ways, how has the work that attorneys and paralegals do for you guys, how has that changed?
So we've had to get pretty creative with reaching out to people remotely. A lot of it is understanding what people feel comfortable with. You know, some of the clients we serve say, "Come on over, I'm not bothered by any of this." And then some of our clients are really trying to observe social distancing measures and protective of their families. And so it's kind of what a client's risk tolerance is, and we try to respect that as much as possible. It's been difficult for us to move forward with some of our legal work because, as Judge Goldstein was saying earlier, a lot of our clients don't have access to the technology that's necessary for remote legal work and remote legal representation. And so we've often had to serve as a go-between between our pro bono attorneys, who are, you know, typically have access to scanners and all kinds of technology, which makes it, I mean, Zoom, things that I absolutely take for granted that our clients don't have. And so sometimes we have to literally serve as a go-between and do some of that like physical legal work. So like, for instance, dropping off an engagement letter at a client's home because they don't have email.
Yeah.
They don't have a computer.
Okay.
So we had to shift.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, that's it. So we've had to kind of, and obviously with our staff being very protective of them and making sure that we don't put them into a risky situation. So it just takes, it's just as you all know, everything is 3 times more complicated during this pandemic, and so some just basic things like getting an engagement letter signed is a 3-day ordeal.
Yeah, and so if any attendees on this call want to get involved, what can they do to help, and or do they contact you? And if you want, after we move on to the next organization, feel free to put your contact information in the chat box so we can provide it to the attendees that way. But I also mentioned we'll also send out an email afterwards with everyone's contact information. So, but with that said, so what are ways, if people get involved with ACT, what would they do, and how would they help you?
We've definitely seen an increase in requests for wills and other kind of estate planning documents, you know, powers of attorney and those kind of needs. So we do have, our primary work is litigation, but we certainly try to support our clients in as many ways as possible. And that includes partnering with estate planning attorneys. So I have about 3 or 4 requests this week for estate plans, for basic estate planning. And then I also have a need from one of our community leaders for a neighborhood association incorporation, excuse me, which is a little bit more of a long-term project. So those are two very specific needs that we have right now.
Yeah, great. Well, thank you so much. We appreciate you being here today, and I think we'll move on to our next organization, and that is Catholic Charities. And from Catholic Charities, we have Carolina Rivera, and she is a supervising attorney. So Carolina, can you please give us a little bit of information about Catholic Charities?
Yes, hi, thank you for having me today. So what we do at here at Catholic Charities, we represent immigrants before the U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services Office or before the Immigration Court. We represent them in various petitions, family petitions, victim applications related to the individuals being victims of crimes, or when they are in that removal proceeding before the court, or are asylum seekers. And so that's the majority of what we do. We represent a lot of family-based petitions and asylum seekers, and helping them get that permanent status here in the U.S., or adjusting their status from any type of status that they enter to that of a more permanent status. And we do represent also individuals that are currently detained. We have a detention center here. The nearest detention center in the Dallas area is Prairieland. It's in Alvarado. It's about 45 minutes south. So we do have a team that goes to the detention center to give orientations to those individuals that are detained. And through that program, we place them with pro bono attorneys that can represent them either in removal proceedings and bond proceedings, which are separate and you don't have to do the complete removal proceedings, or in request for parole, which is something that we have been doing a little bit more right now because of COVID. So we request to ICE to release them from detention, because the detention center, it's, as we all know, it is a place that has COVID, and detention centers, jails, prisons have a high number of COVID cases. So we are trying to get our community members or asylum seekers outside of those detention centers so that they can continue their case outside of the detention centers.
Yeah. And how is that one of the main ways that COVID has impacted your work, or how else?
Well, one of the main ways would be with detainees having that need to be released from the detention center, but other ways is our clients have the population that we serve have a great need to file their petitions. And with COVID, well, immigration court for individuals that are not detained has stopped their cases. The USCIS offices have closed. The consulates have closed as well. So that has created more of a backlog in immigration, and for individuals that in some cases were outside of the country waiting for that consulate interview, and the interview was canceled because the consulate closed. So they have to wait. They have had to wait for the consulate to open again so that they can come back in. And then just in their status, and our clients that we serve, a lot of them have lost their income. They have lost their employment. So it has been difficult for our clients, and they don't have access to, a lot of them don't have access to laptops, computers. So getting their services from us is also have been a challenge for them and for us.
Yeah, I can see that. And so for the attendees on this call, how can they get involved, and what's your need right now, and what can we do to help?
Yes, so our need right now, we have clients that do need assistance with eviction issues, because they have lost their employment. So they do have that need for eviction assistance, and we unfortunately do immigration law. We don't do civil law in our office, so that would be a great need for those attorneys that do civil litigation or civil law that want to volunteer with us, or for those attorneys that want to volunteer and do pro bono hours for asylum seekers. We also have asylees that need help with their removal process, which is filing that asylum application before the judge or requesting that release from detention. At the beginning, we had a couple of attorneys, awesome attorneys that helped us get clients out of detention so that they could be with their families and not have to be worrying about COVID in their dorms and just have that extra stress, and they were vulnerable populations that needed to not be detained. So that's mostly our need, will be helping these individuals be outside of the detention center and helping them through their removal case. And in the aspect of evictions, we do have clients that have that need and we cannot provide those services for them.
Yeah, great. Thank you for that information. Thank you, Carolina. And so we'll move on to the next organization now, and that is DVAP, Dallas Volunteer Attorney Program. And we have Michelle Alden, and she is the director. Michelle, can you give us some information on DVAP?
Sure, happy to. So it's the Dallas Volunteer Attorney Program, or DVAP as we call ourselves. And what it is a joint project of the Dallas Bar Association and Legal Aid of Northwest Texas. What we do is we recruit and train volunteer attorneys to help low-income people in Dallas County with their civil legal needs. So we have a wide variety of cases that we routinely need help with. The main area that we always need the most help with is different types of family law. So that includes divorces, custody issues, child support, adult and child name changes, and adoption cases. That's a big segment of what we do, and we do have a lot of women with children who apply for our services on a regular basis. That's our most typical client. In addition to those cases, we also need help with consumer law cases, Chapter 7 bankruptcy cases, probate cases, estate planning cases, and expunctions and non-disclosures. So that's kind of an overview of what we have. As far as the types of cases that we're seeing during the pandemic specifically, strangely enough, we're still seeing a lot of family law cases. That is still the vast majority of what we're seeing at our clinics. We are also seeing some cases related to employment issues or lack of employment and landlord-tenant issues. We have not seen the giant tsunami of landlord-tenant issues that we're expecting so far, but we do expect that to continue to pick up. And specifically in relation to family law, I know around the, kind of when everything shut down around spring break, we were seeing people come to us with custody questions related to spring break, related to the school break, what happens after the spring break is up, who gets custody. So we did see some issues related to custody at that time.
Yeah. And so it sounds like there's obviously a ton of different areas for people to get involved, and to do that, they contact you, or is that correct? Yeah.
Yes, anyone should go ahead and contact me about that, and I'll be happy to see what kind of opportunities we have to get them involved at the moment. And in a minute, I'll go ahead and put my email in the chat as well. Another thing that's happened during the pandemic that's had a huge impact on us and the way we're doing things is we normally have legal clinics at different locations all around Dallas County. So we normally have 14 legal clinics each month. So when everything shut down in the middle of March, we obviously had to shut those down since they involve large groups of people coming together. So we transitioned to virtual clinics at that time, and we had to figure out how to pivot and get that set up for that to work out. So, so we have a new process for our virtual clinics. We have a clinic happening every Thursday, and we've had a wide variety of law firms and different groups. The Dallasation American Bar signed up. I know that you all signed up recently to help. Everyone's really been coming together to help out with. And we've had about 40 applicants per week as an average, which is kind of in line with our regular clinics. The way it works is we have an online form that we set out for the applicants to complete. And we put out press releases about this to get the word out. The applicants can do that even if they don't have a computer. If they have a smartphone, they can fill it out on their smartphone easily and submit their information. And then on the day of the clinic, a volunteer attorney will call them and talk to them about their legal issue, take notes about it, and we actually have an attorney notes form that the attorneys can fill out online as well. They hit submit, that comes back to us, and then we go ahead and staff it as we normally would following a clinic. But that's been working out really well. We've also ramped up with wills clinics and driver's license restoration clinics recently, doing those on a monthly basis now. And we're working now on getting our veterans clinic back up and running virtually. So we are aiming to get that back off the ground in September.
Okay, that's awesome. Yeah, so many opportunities to get involved there. Thank you for being here today, Michelle. Our next organization is Human Rights Initiative, and we have Sarah Wall here today. She is an attorney with the Crime Victims Unit. So Sarah, can you talk to us and give us some information about HRI?
Happy to. And actually, I love hearing you say Crime Victims Unit. It makes me feel like I'm on like Law and Order SVU. So it's, I've never been described that way. It gave me a little bit of joy. So thank you. Human Rights Initiative provides free legal and social services to survivors of human rights abuses. So mostly that's acts of violence. We've got 3 programs. We do asylum, special immigrant juvenile visas. That's for the children who come to the United States unaccompanied by a parent. And then we've got the crime victims program, which is what I lead. And as far as how, or did you want to go ahead and ask? I was going to anticipate the COVID question.
Feel free. You're welcome to, tell us about how you've been impacted by COVID and ways people can get involved.
Great. So since we do both legal services and social services, that balance of social and legal, usually it's probably about 50-50. Now it's much more like 90% social services needs, 10% legal needs, because we've got people that have lost their jobs, they don't have food, they don't have money for rent. We just scored a great grant from the City of Dallas as part of that CARES Act, so we are going to be distributing rental assistance, which is huge, but many of our clients still need toiletries, so that's always a need. And then of course people to be pro bono attorneys to partner with our clients to do their legal cases. And very similar to Catholic Charities, we are working in immigration court with USCIS, so we have those same challenges. The courts have been closed, the offices have been closed, so no green card interviews, people whose applications have been approved but they're in a different country. They can't get their interview to get their visa to come over here. So that, we've had those same challenges. But if people want to get involved, our website has an actual link on it that says get involved. So you can just go to hrionline.org and click that link. That would take you to our volunteer director, but I will also put my email in the chat box in case you're specifically interested in working with survivors of domestic violence or sexual assault.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you so much for being here, Sarah. And it sounds like, so you have some legal opportunities, but also sounds like there's some other ways that people can help.
Definitely.
Yeah, great. Thank you so much. Our next organization is Legal Hospice, and we have Mark Edgel, and he is the Quality Assurance Coordinator. And Mark, talk to us a little bit about Legal Hospice.
Thank you, Megan. Legal Hospice is a nonprofit law firm that it starts back in 1989 with the HIV/AIDS epidemic. So we know about epidemics a little bit. What is going on is our clientele is both at the end of life stage and HIV clients. So we help them with any other civil needs, social needs, basically, Social Security, wills, if they're having employment issues or insurance issues, housing discriminations. stuff like that. And how we can, what has happened to the organization because of COVID-19 is we no longer can see our clients. We cannot have that face-to-face interaction anymore. And a bunch of our clients are, just like everybody else has been saying, at that lower end of this income spectrum where they can't afford internet, they can't afford computers, they can't afford transportation to the office anyways. So, you know, that's the biggest issue we're having right now with our clients. We're still conducting business over the phone, but not so much in person. And I really believe as a organization that treats the terminally ill and the HIV community, that interaction is important to our clients, because that may be the only time they get out that month is to come see us or their doctor. So that's the biggest, hardest part for me and the organization, is that interaction that we used to have with our clients. What's the challenges facing our clients? Once again, the lack of income, the lack of the accessibility of having internet, transportation, a home computer. A lot of them don't even understand the technology we're talking about. If we could talk to them on Teams, they have no idea what that is, or Zoom, have no idea. They don't even know, we can't even get a document signed because they don't have the technology for DocuSign. And we can't get a wet signature because they're not coming into the office because our office is closed. So that's the big part. And also, a lot of them don't keep minutes on their phone because they don't have the funds. So trying to keep in touch with them is a big challenge because their phones are off for the last half of the month.
Yeah.
So.
And how are attorneys and paralegals, how are they helping during this time, and what can they do to help?
What we're looking for is people that are attorneys or paralegals that are willing to help with our cases that we are not funded for. So like our family law cases, because we get some of those in. We get some immigration cases because the case manager of a HIV client who is an immigrant will send them over to us because we can fund that, but our funding doesn't allow immigration. So if we can find attorneys who would take a pro bono case of immigration for an HIV client, that'd be great. You know, criminal law, we cannot practice criminal law. And a lot of our clients are having a hard time finding a new job because they lost their old job because they have a criminal case on their record. It needs to be expunged. We can't help with that. But that's what we're looking for. And I do want to point out also that our board of directors, our executive director, our legal director, all of our staff are committed to providing the best service we can to our clients in these tough times. You know, and we're willing to do whatever it needs to be done. So we're asking for help.
Yeah, definitely. And hopefully there's attendees on this call that are more than willing to help. So thank you so much for your time, Mark.
You're welcome.
Yeah, we'll move on to the next organization, Mosaic Family Services. And we have Christine Cruz, and she's the legal program director. And Christine, talk to us a little bit about Mosaic.
Hey everyone, thanks so much for having me. It's an honor to represent my organization. Mosaic Family Services as a whole is much more than just our legal program. We provide outreach and education services in addition to social services and legal services to survivors of human rights abuses. So very similar to HRI and Catholic Charities, we provide immigration representation as well as family law representation and social services to survivors of domestic violence, sexual assault, and human trafficking. We also have a separate refugee program as well that provides social services to refugees. And so as part of our comprehensive services, we provide victim advocacy, emergency housing, counseling, transitional housing, economic education, and then of course our legal services. And so transitioning into the question of how COVID has impacted the work that we do, it's very similar to every other organization that has spoken. COVID has just made it so much more complicated to serve our clients, unfortunately. As Catalina with Catholic Charities mentioned and Sarah with HRI, the immigration challenges are huge for our foreign national clients. USCIS has closed down a lot of offices, and there's a lot of delays in processing applications. So immigration relief is extremely slow in a time when it's so needed. So our clients are facing a lot of instability in employment opportunities as well as housing opportunities. And COVID has just made it so much more difficult for us to do our jobs in representing clients, because for their safety, we try not to meet with them unless absolutely necessary during the pandemic. And so the challenges for immigration cases, for example, we have to have wet signatures for all of the forms, and it's really difficult to get that because it's hard to meet with clients. So that just slows down the process even more. And as others have mentioned, our clients have extremely limited access to technology. So it's really difficult to even meet with clients and get them and assist them in getting all of the documents they need for family law cases and immigration cases alike. So that's, those are a lot of the challenges that we're working with. And so for our clients in particular, like I said, due to unemployment, they're facing a lot of evictions. So that's a huge need and a huge issue for our clients. And because of lack of access to financial assistance, they also cannot afford their filing fees for applications, for immigration applications. So that's a huge challenge for our clients, particularly because USCIS is being a lot more strict on fee waivers. So a lot of our clients can't even afford to try to apply for immigration relief that arguably we believe they qualify for.
Yeah, and so it sounds like, so those are some of the biggest needs that y'all need right now.
Yes, so of course, financial assistance is the biggest need for all of our clients. So donations are always accepted and are always welcome and needed. But we do have volunteer opportunities for attorneys. We still have our pro bono program. And so if attorneys are interested, they can contact me directly. We also have pro bono opportunities for paralegal work as well. So it's a little bit more difficult in a time of COVID, but we are trying to make it work with any attorneys who are interested in volunteering with us. So if you are interested in taking on an immigration case, or if you have family law experience and want to take on some of our family law cases, that's definitely something that we would love to have help with. And there are volunteer opportunities with our other programs as well, especially if you have language skills. That translation is always a huge help to us and to our clients, but there are other volunteer opportunities outside of that, which you can find out more on our website. There's a separate volunteer link for the other programs.
Great, thank you so much, Christine. Sounds like there's a ton of different opportunities to get involved, whether it's donations or legal help. So thank you for being here. And and last but not least, we have Priscilla Villarreal, and she is with Raices. I hope I said that correct. Please correct me if I didn't. And Priscilla is the pro bono coordinator attorney. And so please talk to us about your organization.
Thank you. It's, well, you said it well. It's Raices, which is an acronym. The full title is Refugee and Immigrant Center for Education and Legal Services, which is quite a mouthful. So we say Raices. We are all over Texas. We have been expanding and I think have become one of the largest legal service providers for immigration across the state of Texas. So I know we're running short on time, so I'm gonna get right to it. So we have other offices.
And if we go over a little bit, that's okay. We definitely don't want you to cut short your time. Please feel free, talk to us about Raices, and we want to hear what you have to say for sure.
Raíces is a legal human rights nonprofit. We do a lot of work with refugees and immigrants. It expands from assisting with paying bonds. We've actually have paid thousands in bonds, so families don't feel forced to use their life savings, ask for favors, or take out loans with super high interest. So we have actually great donations from the community, have paid, like I said, thousands and thousands of bonds. We assist with detention facility, try to reunite families. We work with juvenile cases for unaccompanied minors, asylum seekers, and the list goes on and on. We kind of do a little bit of everything. We are always up for a challenge for the most part. I'm very fortunate to be part of a great, strong team of attorneys and staff and paralegals and advocates. I'll make a quick plug. We actually have an extension of Raíces called Raíces Action, which is going to get really involved with, the election around the corner to help educate people on what's going on and kind of ask the questions that need to maybe be forced, not coming from a editorial perspective, but more of a community perspective. And I think we have our Instagram up and we have our Raíces Instagram, so you're welcome to follow and kind of keep up to date on issues going around all over the state, human rights violations that we feel is very vital during these election year to be educated on. Now we have, during COVID, obviously, as everyone has said, it's changed our lives completely. We have been working from home since March for across the state, and we'll be working home, I think we decided, at least for now till September, and that could get extended, of course, how things are going across the state. But that has not stopped the team. Everyone has kind of pushed through. We try to offer right now free phone consultations to answer questions and help people with a lot of their concerns and anxieties with the court being shut down and things being delayed. We have a huge push for DACA. I'm sure many of you have heard that on the news when the Supreme Court made a decision and for the now upheld the DACA standard that was established by the Obama administration. And we're just pushing, trying to bond people out, reunite families, answer questions as best as we can during this time, which is all we really can offer is support. I know my staff has continuously found ways to find virtual assistants. We've taught our clients how to do virtual video conference calls and how to do e-signatures. And we've definitely had, our legal staff has been amazing, especially our paralegals and legal assistants have done a great job of helping our clients be available for that. With that being said, I know a lot of people are at home or back with family. We have work that needs help. I have work in San Antonio. They're looking for bond assistance, appeal work. It looks like the detention facility just shifted population to be more Middle Eastern and Asian, which we could use more translators or help us with communication so we can better understand. I mean, when someone suffers trauma, the best we could do is really understand their story. So I'm sure we can use help there. I've been told in detention facilities, fathers are being transferred to adult facilities while mothers and the children are being allowed to be released. So they're forcing separation, even though we've had quite a lot of litigation about it. And we have a lot of detained merit cases, even though the courts are shut down, that is not the case for detained persons. Their cases are still moving forward and their attorneys are having to do virtual or video or phone calls to represent their clients, which I'm sure all of us can imagine how difficult that is. And a lot of it's based on religion and political persecution. So anyone interested in that. It looks like Houston has some juvenile cases, which is family-based, which is SIJS. They have quite a bit of asylum withholding cases based on transgender women and LGBTQ claims, as well as a remote assistance needed for a child for a trafficked victim. So it looks like that one can be done remotely. Locally, we had some great volunteers, paralegal, as well as attorneys assisting us with pro se filing of asylum applications. We currently put that on hold. We're hoping to revamp that again soon. We have a lot of information of some new policies going to be put in place in the foreseeable future that is really going to affect asylum and truly destroy hope that people have. And we're trying to see what we can do as quickly as possible. DACA is a huge thing that we're still fighting. If anyone is available to help, please reach out to me. I'm going to post my information before everyone, I know everyone has to start going back to work soon. If you're interested in helping fill out, DACA is a short-term commitment. It's very easy application. We have all the guides. We can offer assistance, mentorship, as well as all the tools you'll need to assist someone with their DACA, and they've been here most of their whole lives, so you won't have a language barrier issue. Really, it's about helping our community just continue moving forward, and a lot of them are just renewing and want to keep living their lives of working and providing for their families. So if you're interested or have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out. I'm happy to always connect you with other offices or other nonprofits.
Great.
You.
Thank you so much, Priscilla. Sounds like there's so many different ways people can get involved and help out. And so I know we're short on time, we're a little bit over. So thank you so much to all the representatives that are here today. I know the impact and extent of COVID is, you know, how long it's going to last is pretty unclear. But I hope that we have encouraged at least a few attorneys to reach out and either start a pro bono case for the first time or to continue their work with possibly a new organization. So as mentioned, we'll send an email. It looks like most people have put their contact information in the chat box. We'll send an email after this event though with all of that contact information. But if you have any questions, reach out to me, reach out to the speakers or any of the pro bono co-chairs. Special thanks to Sherry Harris. I know we definitely couldn't do any of this without her. She does so much. And I know everyone's waiting. Sherry posted the CLE number earlier, but just in case, if you didn't see that, the CLE number for today is 174090341. And so we're almost done. If people have to jump off, I completely understand. But I would also, to finish out this event, I'm just excited to announce that after our first year with our new challenge model, 35 individuals submitted 2,083 hours of pro bono work for 2019. So we encourage individuals to keep performing and reporting their pro bono hours and their work so that we can reach 2,500 hours of pro bono work next year. And so with that said, just a few individuals that are going to get a special shout out because they completed over 100 hours of pro bono work last year. And that is John Van Buskirk, one of our own co-chairs, Jack Fan, Tanner Hartnett, Sarah Michelle Stearns, Robert Case, Foz Bam, and Whitney Smith. So thank you so much, everyone. We appreciate you being here and learning about different ways to get involved and the importance of pro bono work and giving back to our community. The program is over, so please look for an email from us and we'll give you contact information for all these organizations. So thank you.